Well, after an explosive first week in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial with opening statements, testimony that included the star witness in this case, Cassandra Cassie Ventura Fine, we entered week two.
In criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari. Sarah, great to see you. Sarah is one of Combs' longtime, and one of Combs, you weren't there a long time, one of Combs' longtime attorneys, Mark Garagos.
2022, singer, rapper Tory Lanes convicted of shooting performer Megan Thee Stallion after a party at the Hollywood Hills home of Kylie Jenner. Here's the story. They're at the party. After the party, they get into an argument. Lanes tells Megan Thee Stallion, dance, and shoots at her feet like a cowboy movie, hits her.
Hollywood's elite are no strangers to scandal, but few have rocked the entertainment world like the explosive sex trafficking and racketeering trial facing P. Diddy, aka Sean Combs. What makes this case even more headline-worthy? Johnny Depp's lawyer, a veteran in high-profile celebrity cases, has revealed 5 bombshell courtroom moments that could turn the tide of the trial. From allegations of extreme violence, drugs, and secret cash payments, to testimony that could make or break. Diddy's defense, the courtroom drama is gripping the public's attention like never before. But beyond the courtroom walls, a fierce battle rages on social media and within Hollywood circles. Some stars stand firmly behind Diddy, advocating for due process and fairness, while others rally behind the alleged victims, demanding justice and accountability. In this video, we'll break down the trial's most shocking moments, the legal strategies from both sides, and the emotional real-world reactions from celebrities and legal experts alike. Stay with us as we unpack every detail, explain the complex legal jargon, and reveal what's next in this high-stakes case. Whether you're rooting for Diddy or seeking justice for the survivors, the layers of this story will keep you hooked till the very end.
Well, after an explosive first week in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial with opening statements, testimony that included the star witness in this case, Cassandra Cassie Ventura Fine, we entered week two. And I would describe week two so far as, because at the time of this recording, we haven't quite finished it up yet. We're recording Thursday morning, so just entering into testimony of day 9. But it seems to me the theme for week two was corroboration, meaning corroborating the testimony of Cassie, and also, too, trying to prove the finer points, the finer elements of the racketeering charge. And we're going to go over those big moments from week two. But yes, Combs is accused and charged with racketeering conspiracy, that he formed this criminal enterprise engaged in a pattern of illegal activity, that he entered into a criminal agreement to further the interests of this criminal enterprise, that this included the repeated abuse, threatening, coercion of women into these sexual performances known as freakoffs, makes up the sex trafficking charges too. And he also faces charges of transporting victims and commercial sex workers for the purposes of prostitution.
The prosecution alleges that Sean Combs, known to the world as P. Diddy, ran a criminal enterprise with a long-standing pattern of coercion, abuse, and exploitation. Central to the case are freak-offs, highly orchestrated, allegedly coerced sexual events involving multiple victims. The prosecution claims these acts were part of a racketeering conspiracy, a legal term typically reserved for organized crime syndicates, implying Diddy's involvement in a systematic criminal operation. Yet, veteran defense attorney Mark Garagos, who also represented Johnny Depp in his own high-profile case, warns that the prosecution's narrative is far from straightforward. He describes their theory as flipping the world on its head, an accusation that the prosecution is cherry-picking evidence to fit a story rather than presenting the full truth. Garagos argues that much of the testimony reveals consent and autonomy, challenging the idea that all acts were forced or coerced. He points out that while there are difficult allegations, the defense has been gaining momentum by exposing inconsistencies and raising reasonable doubt. This segment of the trial is critical because it sets the stage for how jurors will interpret. It's a battle between two competing narratives, one of a powerful man abusing his influence, and another of a man misunderstood by selective storytelling. How the jury navigates this complex terrain could determine the outcome.
In criminal trial attorney Sarah Azari. Sarah, great to see you. Sarah is one of Combs' longtime, and one of Combs, you weren't there a long time, one of Combs' longtime attorneys, Mark Garagos, whose daughter Tenny is on Diddy's current legal team. Mark, Sarah, thank you guys for joining us. So Sarah, one of the things that you see going back and forth here between these texts is really the prosecution. What the prosecution is going to have to do is convince the jury that she wasn't a willing participant, that she was kind of agreeing out of fear, right, for herself. How do you do that? in that process. Can that actually be done?
You know, look, I'll be honest, I'm the prosecutor tonight, but this today was not good for the prosecution, but also wasn't shocking. I think they were expecting this. There was a lot of consent, there was a lot of autonomy in her testimony, and that all the testimony that we heard on direct, where there was violence intertwined with the freakoffs, I think the defense did a really good job at parsing that out and divorcing it. But she is the star witness. She's not the only witness. This trial just began, and I think that there's a lot that she's testified to that will go to the racketeering charge, even though the sex trafficking is probably, there's a lot of doubt there because of today's testimony.
Right. And Mark, I assume you would agree, a good day, I assume, for the defense. And again, does this give them momentum as they move forward? And is this exchange exactly what they were looking for?
Several witnesses have taken the stand to describe harrowing accounts of violence allegedly committed by Diddy against Cassie Ventura and others. Don Rashard testified to witnessing Diddy striking Cassie with a skillet and threatening her life, creating a climate of fear. Carrie Morgan, a former close friend of Cassie, described seeing physical abuse and controlling behavior, including incidents where Diddy allegedly dragged Cassie by her hair and inflicted concussions. These testimonies paint a grim picture of abuse, consistent with the prosecution's case that Diddy's actions were part of a larger criminal conspiracy. But during cross-examination, the defense questioned the credibility of these witnesses, suggesting motives of jealousy and personal disputes rather than organized trafficking. The defense's strategy is clear. They seek to blur the lines between domestic violence and criminal racketeering, aiming to weaken the prosecution's claim of a coordinated criminal enterprise. For jurors, the task is daunting, deciding whether they are hearing isolated incidents or part of a systematic pattern of exploitation. The stakes could not be higher, as their verdict will impact not only Diddy's fate, but potentially set precedent for future celebrity trials.
You're most welcome. Nice to be here. Thank you, Jesse.
You got it. So let's talk about another celebrity who took the stand this week, okay? Started off Dawn Rashard from Danity Kane. Now, she filed her own lawsuit against Diddy, too, okay? Now, she actually returned to the stand, continued her testimony from the week prior, and she claims that she witnessed Diddy attack Cassie, including hitting her in the head with a skillet. She claims that Diddy punched Cassie at a dinner that was attended by other high-profile people like Usher and Jimmy Iovine and Neo. She claims she observed injuries on Cassie. She claimed that Diddy made a perceived threat to her. Quote, he said you could go missing, that we could die. She testified that Combs had drugs and guns. But on cross-examination, she was pressed about why did she try to stay in contact with Diddy to work with him. She was questioned on perceived inconsistencies between her testimony and things that she said in the past to authorities. It was a really tough cross-examination by Sean Combs' defense counsel, Nicole Westmoreland. Ben, how do you think she helped the prosecution, and was she reliable?
I think she did help the prosecution in what you suggested earlier in terms of corroboration. All these witnesses seem to be confirming the testimony of Cassie Ventura. And of course, she had the ultimate confirmation in the video, which was so powerful and kind of indelible, probably in the jurors' minds. I agree with you. I think the cross-examination did score some points. But when you have the quantity of witnesses saying essentially the same thing, I think it's pretty powerful for the prosecution.
And she furthered certain points, right? The idea of why Cassie couldn't leave. Well, maybe this helps support Cassie couldn't escape, right? She testified that she saw staff members there. They didn't intervene in what was going on. And I wonder if it supports also the force component of sex trafficking, right? You know, this idea that force was used as a way to induce Cassandra Ventura into these sexual episodes, these freak-offs. And then I also wonder if the repeated physical violence and the threats goes into the pattern for racketeering, because the racketeering charge takes up so many pages of the indictment. I don't care which indictment you're looking at, there's multiple superseding indictments. And it focuses on Combs not just allegedly abusing or attacking named victims, right? Like alleged victim number one, Cassandra Ventura, but other people and other women. And I think that she goes to support that, right?
Completely. And I think particularly the danger and the threat element seems to be a recurring theme. The violence, the threat of violence, and the apparent basis of the threat, I think helps the prosecution a great deal.
Outside the courtroom, the court of public opinion is divided. Several high-profile celebrities have come to Diddy's defense, Cardi B, DJ Khaled, and Jermaine Dupri have publicly expressed support, emphasizing the importance of due process and cautioning against rushing to judgment. Mark Garagos also highlighted that many believe the prosecution's case has gaps, noting moments of consent and the complexities involved in proving coercion beyond reasonable doubt. These voices underscore the tension between loyalty to a longtime industry figure and the serious allegations facing him.
2022, singer, rapper Tory Lanes, convicted of shooting performer Megan Thee Stallion after a party at the Hollywood Hills home of Kylie Jenner. Here's the story. They're at the party. After the party, they get into an argument. Lanes tells Megan Thee Stallion, dance, and shoots at her feet like a cowboy movie, hits her. Proof? Testimony of Megan Thee Stallion, her friend Kelsey Harris, and DNA evidence on the weapon that convinced jurors to convict. Pretty simple, right? Maybe not. Turns out that DNA, only a 0.01% chance that the DNA is from Lanes. He's always maintained his innocence. He was sentenced to 10 years, so this is really about the testimony. Lanes, so what happens? So he goes away, recently stabbed 14 times in prison. Many say it was a hit, okay? Because new evidence is about to come out. All right, a little conspiratorial, but he was definitely stabbed. Lane's supporters believe that the media doesn't care because Megan Thee Stallion is represented by Jay-Z's Rock Nation. Now, I could give a damn about Jay-Z or his company. This just wasn't a case on my radar until now. Why? Anna Paulina Luna. She is a representative from Florida. You see her here on a regular basis. She says she's got new evidence, says it wasn't him. And she joins us now. Representative APL, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back on. And thanks for taking a look at this case.
No, listen, you tell me to take a look at it, I'll look at it. But why did you look at it? I mean, this isn't your jurisdiction. I don't know you to have any connection to any of these people.
Yeah, so as you know, we are on oversight and accountability, and so this case was actually initially flagged for me by Amber Rose. And the reason why I took a particular interest in it is because of the fact that they actually had evidence that they presented to me in my office that actually disproved the conviction. So as you stated earlier, that 0.01% of DNA, they actually found 4 people's DNA on that firearm, none of which was Tory's. Not to mention there was 0 fingerprints on the actual magazine. And also too, as you said, 0.01% chance. I mean, that evidence in itself should pretty much speak for itself. Also, there's been ring footage that's been obtained that actually disproves the whole dance, Megan. And so what we're seeing is really there was a case of he said, she said. The evidence wasn't actually respected and properly adhered to actually in the trial. And then they also were doing something that I would find pretty wild and egregious. They were actually submitting his lyrics for rap as evidence to the crime. So look, first and foremost, you have to have a free and fair society. That means we need to respect and uphold the justice system. So I actually reached out today to Gavin Newsom's office, and we are requesting an emergency meeting. We're also working with other Democrats, specifically to the California delegation. But I think that this is something that's pretty egregious, that the way that this was handled, the way that it was. I think that it was largely driven by headlines. And aside from the people involved and the parties involved, obviously I take domestic violence, I take this very seriously, Chris, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent. And I think that it sets a really bad message when you have someone of his stature, and also to someone that is as influential as he is, that's being wrongfully incarcerated. And that's exactly why we wanted to use our megaphone for a good reason and help get him his pardon, which I think he'll get.
So Luna, who did it? I mean, she says, and her friends say, that he did it, and who else would have done it, and what proof do you have to support that? I get it. Maybe they didn't make the case the right way with the weapon, but who did it?
You know, Chris, that's not for me to weigh in, and that's definitely for the judge and the jury. But what I will tell you is, based on the evidence that we have, the evidence that we have says that he wasn't the guy. And so I do think that Gavin Newsom has some great attorneys that will look at this, but I'd also like to point out that the prosecutor specifically on this case that initially brought the charges is a very interesting prosecutor look into who ran him. And at the end of the day, you know, I think Hollywood, as you know, Chris, and politics does overlap, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. So look at the evidence for yourself. We've posted it for the entire world to see, to determine for themselves. And I know that Tory's legal team actually has an incredible case. And so we are calling on Gavin Newsom to issue that pardon immediately. And also remember, he was almost killed in jail. I actually talked to him today on the phone, and he said that once he does get out, once he does get this pardon, which I do feel confident that he'll be getting, he's going to work extensively in prison reform, because this should never happen to anyone.
Anna Paulina Luna, this is a really interesting one. I've never covered a situation like this before, but I appreciate you using your platform, and let the legal team know. We'll be reaching out if they want to come on to make the case. I'm happy to hear it, and we'll check in with the governor's office as well. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, of course, and Chris too. If you want, we can probably connect you with his dad as well. I think it's important for people to know all the facts.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'll check in with you right after the show. Thank you very much.
The P. Diddy trial is far from over, with intense legal battles, emotional testimonies, and celebrity reactions continuing to unfold. It is a story not only about one man, but about the very nature of power, justice, and accountability in the ICE entertainment world. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated on every twist and turn in this gripping saga. The courtroom drama is just beginning, and the world will be watching closely.